Welcome to the Registered Student Organization Re-Registration Process Training. During this training, we will discuss why we conduct the re-registration process, an overview of the timeline of completing the re-registration process, where your organization's re-registration documents can be accessed, who should participate in this process, what documents are required for re-registration, and finally, how to submit the documents. For this presentation, headphones and a material to take notes are recommended. The first thing we are going to cover during this training is why we conduct the re-registration process in the first place. We will specifically overview the life cycle of RSOs, review the 3 organizational statuses, and finally how the re-registration process contributes to RSO status. The Student Engagement Office has created what is called the life cycle of RSOs. This life cycle highlights an organization all the way from the inception for the RSO, through being formally recognized by the Student Government Association, through gaining and maintaining active status, and even the fluctuation between developmental and inactive status. SEO utilizes this life cycle flowchart when assigning action plan tasks, assigning sanctions to RSOs that are found responsible for violating HFU policies, or even when helping a group of students start a new organization on campus. The 3 specific statuses associated with our RSOs are active status, developmental status, and inactive status. Active status is assigned to RSOs that meet all requirements outlined by the university and the Student Engagement Office. We will follow up more in depth on this in our next slide. The developmental status is given to RSOs that are newly registered and/or existing RSOs to provide additional support while working toward achieving active status. RSOs that are assigned developmental status are required to meet with the Student Engagement Office to create an action plan. This action plan will act as a roadmap to get our RSO back on track to achieve active status. Inactive status is assigned to organizations that are not meeting the requirements of active status or developmental status. For example, if an RSO creates an action plan with the SEO but fails to complete the action plan, then the organization risks losing recognition. It is also important to note that an organization can opt into inactive status at any time. For a RSO to be classified as active, they are specifically required to ensure members are in attendance at the annual involvement fair, recruitment events throughout the summer and academic year, and also contribute to HFU service initiatives. Active organizations must also have an advisor, president, and treasurer. In addition to this, the organization should also meet with the Student Engagement Office at least once a semester to discuss RSO operations. Finally, and potentially the most important for this training, RSOs must submit the annual re-registration documents to be considered active. In addition to recognition status, the re-registration documents are utilized by the Student Engagement Office in many ways. First, we use submitted info to update our annual reports that are submitted to the university. We also use all of the information to update the SEO website, marketing materials, and even sections of the HFU student handbook. The password log is specifically utilized to submit a complete list of all RSO social media accounts to the HFU Communications Office. Throughout the summer and into the beginning of the fall semesters, SEO and SGA will utilize the submitted budget request to assign allocated budgets. More information about the budgeting process will be mentioned later in this training and is also further explored in the Finances and Contract training. The RSO Executive Board rosters will be utilized to assign university and SEO required trainings, in addition to ensuring that all appropriate stakeholders are kept informed on the happenings of the Student Engagement Office. Finally, the Student Engagement Office keeps virtual records of all submitted documents in our archives to ensure that important RSO information is not lost during transitions between semesters and executive boards. We will now cover the timeline that pertains to the re-registration process. Specifically, we will overview when your organization will be able to access the documents, how the access will be communicated to you, and also when the documents are due. The Student Engagement Office will send an email no later than the end of February to all current RSO leaders, advisors, role accounts, and/or coaches. This email will provide an overview of the re-registration process in addition to including a link to access the Google Drive folder containing all of the re-registration documents. Required documents are annually due on the last Friday of classes during the spring semester. This ensures that documentation is submitted and completed prior to the beginning of semester examinations and graduation. Now we will discuss providing more information about the SEO Archives and also the Google folders where re-registration documents are stored. The Student Engagement Office stores all of the documents that are submitted to it in the appropriate RSO folders. We keep track of constitutions, event evaluations, award applications, re-registration documents, supply request forms, and many other things. This allows us to easily share these documents with future leaders of an RSO to make sure, regardless of transition, that our student leaders have the important background information they need to be successful. If an organization ever wants to access the documents on file with SEO, email us at seo@holyfamily.edu and we will share with you what we have. As mentioned in the last section, SEO will email the student leaders, advisors, and/or coaches for our RSOs an email that contains a link to their re-registration document folder. SEO will also share editing access with all these stakeholders. In the folder will be a letter overviewing the re-registration process in addition to a copy of the previous academic year's re-registration documents. We acknowledge that many of our organizations reuse and resubmit similar information every year. The folder will also contain a document called Phase 2, and we'll provide more information on this document on the next slide. The Phase 2 Google Sheets file has all the templates for the budget request, inventory audit, executive board roster, and password log, as noted on the screen with the red arrows. Each tab is a different template in an attempt to streamline the re-registration process. Now that we have discussed the why, when, and where, we will cover the who of this re-registration process. Specifically, we will overview who in your organization should be a part of the re-registration process. In the perfect world, the outgoing and incoming executive board should work together to complete the upcoming academic year's re-registration process. This ensures that the outgoing officers can provide guidance, support, and experience to the process, but ultimately gives the incoming officers the opportunity to request funds for their own initiatives. The Student Engagement Office encourages executive board members to overview their plans with their advisor should the advisor have any additional suggestions. If it is not possible to get everyone involved in the process, the next best thing is to have the incoming officer team submit the documents. Although they would be new to the process, having them submit the documents with the assistance of the Student Engagement Office and their advisor ensures that the incoming executive board gets to request the things that they feel they need for their roles. The next least ideal situation is having the outgoing executive board complete the documents on their own. This is not ideal as it removes the incoming officer's ability to be a part of the conversation and as such makes it difficult for the incoming officer team to get everything they may need for their term. Finally, the least ideal situation is having your advisor complete the documents. Registered student organizations should be entirely student-run with the guidance of an advisor. Asking your advisor to complete the documents may remove some of the autonomy you have as a student leader. Now we will review the documents that should be submitted as part of the re-registration process. We will also include some information about how to properly complete these documents. As mentioned elsewhere, the SEO will provide templates of the required documents in addition to the previous year's submissions to make this process as quick and easy as possible. The documents that are required to be submitted include the re-registration form, RSO constitution, budget request, inventory audit, executive board roster, password log, and end-of-year evaluation. This is the re-registration form. By filling out this form, the Student Engagement Office is given the most up-to-date information on your organization. This helps us know the best ways to contact your organization and keeps us informed on your organization's plans and goals for the upcoming academic year. You can find a link to the re-registration form in the Phase 1 document in your re-registration folder. The next required document is the RSO Constitution. If your RSO is not new this year, you should have an already existing constitution. This constitution needs to be updated to reflect the growth and change your organization may have experienced in the previous year. This is a screenshot of the RSO Constitution template, which can be found on the Student Engagement Office website. The template includes what ideally should be a part of your constitution. You are free to add to this constitution while creating your RSOs, but it is not recommended to remove anything that is included in the template. To submit your most up-to-date constitution, please upload it into your re-registration documents folder. The next required document is the budget request form. This is the budget request form template. The information asked for in the template helps the Student Engagement Office make informed decisions on budget allocations for the coming academic year. On the document, it is important to be as specific as possible and to try and calculate all the different items you may need for your program, including food, transportation, and entertainment. Note if there is a new initiative or if the program has happened in the past. It is also important to note if you have the ability to receive funds from another funding source. Review the finances in contracting session to learn more about alternative funding sources. The next required document is the inventory audit. This document helps your RSO and the Student Engagement Office keep track of what supplies your organization owns, as well as where they are stored on campus. This form allows your RSO to stay organized and to make informed purchases. The next required document is the Executive Board roster, which includes the names and email addresses of leadership and the organization's advisor. We acknowledge that things can change. Someone that is elected to a position in the spring semester may leave the university and not return during the fall. It is important to communicate leadership changes with the Student Engagement Office so we can ensure our records are up to date. Your organization should utilize its Canvas shell to track all of your general members. Contact us at SEO@holyfamily.edu if your organization does not have a Canvas shell or does not know how to add members to it. The next required document is the password log. The password log helps the Student Engagement Office keep track of all official communication that RSOs do, as well as notify HFU communication of any existing social media or email accounts that represent the university. Tracking passwords with SEO also ensures that future leaders can gain access to password-protected accounts. The final requirement of the re-registration process is the end-of-year evaluation. This form lets the Student Engagement Office know what your RSO accomplished this year. It also helps your RSO leadership reflect on the year and allows the opportunity to discuss growth in your events, meetings, and practices. You can find a link to the end-of-year evaluation in the Phase 1 document in your re-registration folder. In this last section, we will discuss how to submit these documents. SEO has decided to utilize Google Drive as the submission method because we have found that RSOs would complete the paperwork to remain in good standing with the Student Engagement Office, but would never reference back to the documents throughout the year. This meant that many of these documents would be lost and not shared with the following year's leadership team, and as such would make it difficult for students to know important information about their organization. Since SEO already can access the folder where your documents are stored, we recommend sending SEO@holyfamily.edu an email notifying us that you have finished editing the documents. This lets us know that your documents are ready to be reviewed. As always, if your organization feels they need an extension on these documents, please email us before the deadline, and we would be happy to accommodate your request. Thank you for completing this training. For more information about the Student Engagement Office, please visit the link on the screen or email us at seo@holyfamily.edu. To earn credit for this training, please be sure to complete the post-assessment, which is linked to the description for this video.